Hey, what's up? Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. This is going to be a quick watercolor tip video. I'm going to address an issue that I believe a lot of you may struggle with following an email I got. So the issue is, how do I paint a large dark wash? And the person asking the question said that they always run out of paint, and that's a big problem because the paint does run out. So I'm going to give you a few solutions real quick, face to face. Then we're going to go to the table. I'm going to do a quick demo for you and give you that last tip that's also very important. So let's get started. Now, the first tip I want to give you is consider the color you're using. Is it naturally dark? Meaning, I can have this beautiful black paint by White Nights, which is naturally very dark. Or I can have this burnt sienna by Daniel Smith that's kind of a medium to dark value. Or I can have this yellow ochre by M. Graham that's not dark at all. So when you want to achieve this darkness, always have in mind that the color does influence it. You can get a warm black or a cool black, but if you're just using yellow, no matter how many times you'll glaze over it, it may not get as dark as you need to. So that's the first thing to have in mind. Now, the second thing to have in mind is asking yourself, does the paint awaken easily? And this is usually a problem with lower grade paints, okay? If the paint is good quality, it will re-wet very easily. Usually, you'll put water on it and it's gonna immediately get moist and will spread out on the paper perfectly. Very often, with few colors that are a little more just harder naturally, or with brands that are of lesser quality, you will get paints that you really need to scrub with the brush until they come out. That's gonna be a problem, and that's something you wanna watch out for, okay? If you're struggling against the paint, just don't use it. The worst experience I had with this was with the Sennelier, I forgot the name, but it's I believe a 12 paint set that was so bad, and it was student grade, not artist grade, so I had a really tough time with it, and honestly I don't understand how anyone uses it. It's really bad. But with any of the big brands, you will probably not have this problem. Daniel Smith, SAA, Shinhan PWC, also good. Which one am I forgetting? Schminke, M. Graham. So many good brands, okay? Don't limit yourself. Choose the colors you love from every brand you can get. White Nights, just what I just showed you, excellent colors for very cheap prices. Winsor Newton are good. Just go for those surefire paints. Some paints, by the way, are softer, so you get yellow ochre that are very soft, compared to other paints like perhaps burnt sienna, sometimes types of burnt sienna. Sepia can be also very hard to pick up and to re-wet. Okay, so that's the second tip for you. Now the third, and this is also very important, if you're having trouble, as a general rule, it's gonna be easier if you use paint that's freshly squeezed out of the tube. Okay, most people, when they get started, they think whether they should work with pans or tubes. Tubes are a little more work, but consider this, with tubes, all I have to do is fill in these wells, let it dry or don't let it dry, and that's it. It's not that big of a deal, okay? Now, when the paint is freshly squeezed out of the tube, it's the easiest to work with. It's still moist, and that's when, especially for larger pieces, that's when you want to use that kind of a paint, okay? Straight out of the tube if you can. Even if I have already paint here, I'll put some over it that's straight out of the tube for large washes, large skies, initial washes for larger pieces. Okay, so you want to have that in mind as well. If you're having trouble with pans, and some pans are great, some pans re-wet really well, but usually you'll have a much easier time if you squeeze it out of the tube, and sometimes you're gonna have an easier time even if you squeeze it out of the tube and let it dry, it will still re-wet better than pans. Okay, so an important thing to have in mind. Now for the fourth tip, I'm gonna take you to the table, I'm gonna demonstrate and explain. It's really important. So the basic idea is that you have two options. Either you mix a lot of paint in advance because you know you have to prepare to do a large wash, or you acknowledge the fact that you will need to mix while you paint, okay? These are the two options. So mixing a large quantity usually entails mixing more than you think you need. This is very common. In the past, I would run out of paint very often because you need more. You look at this, it's super dark. You're thinking to yourself, oh, this is great. It's a dark color, naturally dark value. You need more. You need more and more and more. Mix as much as you think you'll need based on the size of paper. If you're using a large brush, you'll see how fast it actually runs out, okay? Now, due to the fact that it runs out, you may need to mix while painting. So let me show you the basic technique for that, okay? Now, having a slope for the painting doesn't really help with this dry of paint because it won't flow anyway. So you see, I'm picking up more, adding to the mix, and continuing to paint. And imagine we have this still life arrangement or something like this here. Now, the advantage is that in dark washes, you won't see as much of the patchiness or unevenness of the wash, so you will still get a good result. Now, here's a very, very important concept for you. When you want to darken this pile of paint, you don't just add the paint, because look what happens after a while. It stops moving. Look at this. Look at the dry brush effect I'm getting. You have to add water as well. You add paint for the darker value and water for the flow. You must do both, okay? And now look at the flow. Now that's flow. You see? Just adding paint is not enough. Now, after you have water and paint in your brush, you can go straight to the pan and grab paint and you will still get a flow. Why? Because the brush contains water. Don't forget, it continues to contain water, okay? And it doesn't just run out. So here we go. You want to choose again the largest, the size of brush that's necessary. Usually for most people that'll mean working with a larger brush. More people tend to resort to smaller brushes for some reason, maybe to get more accuracy. That's not how it is. But look at how I'm constantly adding more paint, more water for the flow. If you do a brush mark and it's too light, go back and add more paint, okay? And this is how you get these washes done, okay? Here we go, almost done. I need a little more water for the flow, but here we go. Now, if you see any areas that are lighter or any holes, just come back and fix them. Just go over them and fix them. If you see some patches somewhere, just go ahead and add some more paint on top of that. But that's the very basic technique. And remember always, more paint for the dark value, more water for the flow. Always a mix of the two. And, of course, mix in advance as much as you think you'll need. Probably more than you think. This puddle runs out much faster than you think it is, okay? I hope that makes sense, and with that, let's wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope this one was useful for you. I think it goes to show you that for every problem in watercolor, you can find dozens of solutions. Just have everything stacked in your favor, okay? Use paints that you know are dark enough. Use paints freshly out of the tube. Avoid the lesser brands that have problematic paints. Make sure to mix enough in advance, or acknowledge the fact you're gonna have to add more and more water and paint, both of them. You always have to do this. With time, you'll get that sixth sense for how wet the mixture is, how much more water it requires, how much more paint. It's something that you can't really, you have to do the push-ups, basically. You have to practice a lot in order to get it. It will develop naturally for any person, I believe. I really do believe that, okay? So work it. I hope it helps. Don't forget, if you want to learn how to paint like me, be sure to check out in the link in the description box below my frustration-free watercolor course. It will help you let go, enjoy the painting process, and get the results you want. This is what it's all about. If you feel stifled, if you feel like you're too caught up in the small details, you can't express yourself well with the paint, you're very timid, it will help. I give you specific exercises, a specific method from A to Z that will show you exactly how to let that go and get the results you want, okay? I want to thank you so much. Please like, share, and comment on this video if you can. It really helps me reach more people. Subscribe if you still aren't. And that's it. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.